Hello everyone. Today I'm going to demonstrate how I turned this photo into this photo with a few simple techniques using Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. First of all, we import the raw files into Lightroom. Go to the Details tab and turn the sharpening and the color noise reduction all the way to 0 since we don't want to sharpen the noise in the picture. Now head to the Lens Corrections tab and tick the Enable Profile Corrections and remove Chromatic Aberrations boxes. These were the adjustments for our sky photo. Now go ahead and select the foreground photo in order to make some adjustments to it and later compose both of them together. Both images were taken at the same place and same night, but one has a better angle for the foreground and the other has better sky details to increase the exposure and the shadows in order to reveal the dark foreground. Don't worry about the noise because we're going to reduce it in Photoshop. You also can make the photo cooler using the white balance slider in order to make the composite more natural. Reduce the sharpening again to 0 and apply the profile corrections. Now select both images, right-click, Edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Once opened, go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Increase the saturation and the vibrance to 100 in order to fix the white balance. Now adjust the white balance and tint sliders to get a well-balanced histogram and get a balance between the orange and blue tones in the picture. Then reset both saturation and vibrance sliders to 0. Now hit Ctrl+M to open the curves adjustment, hold Ctrl and click a bright area in the Milky Way and then a dark spot in the background sky. Then drag the upper point in the curve slightly upwards and create a sort of an S shape to add contrast to the image. Now head to Camera Raw Filter and make some basic adjustments to add some more contrast. Now go to the Masks tab and add a radial gradient and cover the Milkyway arch with it. Increase the exposure and contrast a bit. Add some more saturation, dehaze and clarity. Now hit the 3 dots button on the mask and choose Duplicate and Invert Mask. This will allow us to edit the background sky separately. Drop down the clarity, saturation and exposure a bit, and add some dehaze. This step is optional depending on the vignetting you have in the image. If you have a dark corner, just add a linear gradient and drag it from the dark corner and increase the exposure. Now, to remove the unwanted green cast in the image, head to Filter, Deep Sky Colors, HOVG and choose Medium and Apply. This is a free plugin that you can download and use in Photoshop. Another plugin is Noise Exterminator by us. It is not free, but it is totally worth it since it reduces the noise in the image without ruining the details. Hit Ctrl+M again to open curves and make another slight S curve. Now we will reduce the star size in our image to make the Milky Way more dominant in the image. To do so, head to Select, Color Range and select Highlights. Now play around with the sliders in order to get a good selection of the stars without selecting too much of the Milky Way. Hit OK and head back to the Select tab, go to Modify, Expand by 2 pixels. After that, go to Select again, Modify and Feather by 1 pixel. Now go to Filter, Other Minimum and choose a number between 0.3 and 1 pixel. It depends on your image. And make sure that Preserve Roundness is selected. Now to sharpen the stars and the Milky Way details. Head to Filter, Sharpen and choose Unsharp Mask. Play around with the slider and choose a number in which there is not much noise sharpened. Now choose the Dodge tool from the Tools menu. Set the exposure to 5 and then select Highlight. Brush over the brightest spots in the Milky Way to make them more apparent. Now we're going to choose the Burn tool and do the opposite. Set the exposure to 3 and choose Shadows, and brush over the dark spots in the Milky Way. Now hit Ctrl+U to open the saturation adjustment and increase the overall saturation, reds and yellows. This also depends on your image. Maybe you'll need less saturation or maybe more. After that, you can use Camera Raw Filter again to add more contrast with masks and other adjustments. You can use Noise Exterminator one more time to reduce some more noise. Now we'll edit the foreground image. First I'll reduce the green cast. You might not need to, depending on your image. Then I'll reduce the noise, since it is only a single exposure. Now head to the Camera Raw filter and make some changes to the colors and exposure settings to make the composite more natural. And now for the final step, select the Quick Selection tool from the Tool menu, and while the foreground image is still selected, brush over the sky and it does a good selection. Hit the Layer Mask button on the bottom right corner and hit Ctrl+I in order to invert the mask. Then activate the sky image and drag the foreground image above it. And there you go. Now you can move it around to match where the Milky Way was in the sky and crop the image if needed.